Hello, very good morning. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. I'm Frank Pereira. Big day today. All eyes on the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley as he gets set to present his first full-fledged budget, of course. And there are several expectations. Everyone from the common man to industry to the corporates wants something out of it. It remains to be seen whether it's going to be a populist budget or it's going to go down the railway budget line and it's going to be a realist budget. But first up, let's start with the latest headlines. All set for Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's first full-fledged budget today. Growth and fiscal consolidation expected to be the key focus. Ahead of the budget, economic survey emphasizes on scope for big bang reforms, forecast growth rate of over 8% for the next financial year. Markets upbeat ahead of the budget. Sensex gains over 200 points and Nifty jumps by 60 points in early trade. Jaitley's resolve to cut down fiscal deficit to 4.1% this year will be tested today. Steep fall in crude oil prices likely to offer some relief for the finance minister. All eyes on Jaitley's roadmap to implement the goods and services tax regime. Finance Minister expected to tweak tax rates to implement GST from next year. Well, I have with me Vishal Dahiya, correspondent who's standing by in Parliament. All the action, of course, is going to concentrate on Parliament. But before I go to Vishal, let me just introduce my guests in the studio as well right now. I have with me, of course, SP Singh, Senior Director, Deloitte. Also with me is NR Bhanumurthy, member of the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, and also senior journalist Priya Ranjan Dash. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on the program. Before I come to you, let me first get a quick update from Parliament. Vishal, over to you.
Well, Frank, a customary cabinet meeting is on since last 20-25 minutes. The budget is presented before the cabinet, before it is brought out in the parliament, and there is a cabinet nod which is required, a customary sort of meeting since the budget has already been finalized. That is something which is going on inside the parliament out here right now. Right behind me, if you could see, there is a room in which the union cabinet is, having a discussion on the union budget, which will be presented in a short while. That's exactly at 11 a.m. in the Lok Sabha. And once the cabinet meeting gets over, the finance minister and the other ministers will then proceed to the lower house. And at 11 sharp, we will see the finance minister rising up in the house and starting his budget speech. So all eyes and all ears will be on the parliament in another 10 to 15 or maximum 20 minutes or so when the budget speech begins.
All right, Vishal Dahiya, thank you for joining me with that update from Parliament. We'll keep coming back to you during the course of the day to get you the latest from Parliament. And of course, let's carry this discussion forward. Let's let me put my first question across to SP Singh, Senior Director of Deloitte. SP Singh, several expectations are indeed high. Everyone wants something out of this budget. Everyone wants a piece of the pie, so to say. So what are your expectations, from the corporate industry as far as this budget is concerned?
Yeah, thanks. When you look at the expectation, you can divide it into certain baskets. What everybody would be expecting, and then you go to the different sectors and try to find out what that particular sector will look forward to. When you talk about what everybody would be expecting, I will say that everybody will be expecting the steps taken by the finance minister to ensure clarity, certainty in the tax regime, and of course GST, which you just now mentioned, because everybody feels that GST will give us a certainty so far as the indirect taxes is concerned. The clarity and the certainty are two things which create a very, very moving ground for any industry to function. So when you talk about the industry, they want the certainty in respect of investment environment.
Okay, very quickly, populist or realist budget?
I think it will be a realist budget.
Okay.
Because the reason is that, there are two aspects. One is get the money and spend the money.
Okay.
So to spend the money, there has to be get the money. So
indeed. Bhanumurthy, I'll come to you now. Of course, your director has been speaking to the media quite often in the recent past, and he has said two very important points. One, of course, he has called for the need to rationalize state plan assistance and also a rationalization of subsidies. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I think the second part is definitely going to happen. I mean, if you look at the numbers for the past 2-3 years, already that rationalization of subsidies already taken place. In fact, even with the budget numbers, the subsidies for the current year is expected to be less than 2%. I mean, particularly the oil, food and fertilizer subsidy in that sense. Going forward, we are expecting, at least in the budget, we are expecting that the rationalization of subsidies will happen, but that seems to be happening largely by improving the efficiency of the public delivery mechanism. As the economic survey already pointed out, they are going to use technology more in terms of there is something like Jan Dhan scheme and Aadhaar and mobile network to reduce the leakages and improve the efficiency in the public delivery mechanism.
Okay, so you see that happening then in
Yeah,
this
it is already happening. It is going to happen. It's going to continue.
Yeah, it's going to take it forward.
Yes.
Priyaranjan Dash, several people in the media, of course, several financial analysts also are saying that this could be a make or break budget for the government and for Arun Jaitley in particular. But the question really is it going to be a budget that is going to be make or break? Because let's not forget, the government still has four more years to go and a few more budgets to present before the next election. So do you see some big bang reforms this time around?
Yes, I think, like the economic survey says, the economy has hit a sweet spot. The international environment is conducive, and for the first time in 30 years, you have a full mandate for a single party. So the political situation also, and there is a political mandate to carry forward reforms that should make India. So I think it should be a Make India budget, not just a Make in India budget. Of course, that will be Make in India will be part of the Make India budget. So this should be a Make India budget, and the situation is absolutely conducive for India to take off and eventually achieve a double-digit growth. Essentially, it has to be a budget for growth of incomes and jobs.
Sure.
And for that, it will require to boost investment in the economy. As we know, the biggest worry of recent year, inflation, has been tamed. So on that count, there is less worry now. The other macroeconomic indicators are very well placed. Rupee doesn't face the kind of pressure it used to. It has stabilized.
Right.
And the current account deficit is also down, and it is projected to go down further to 1% of GDP. Given all this situation, and I mentioned about the international situation, primarily that is of the energy cost and the commodity prices, which are, so it presents a golden opportunity for this budget to cash on and actually stays not only just a smart recovery, but take India to a high growth path of incomes and jobs.
All right. My colleague Qurban Ali also joins me on the program right now. I'm sure he has a few questions for the guests as well. Qurban?
शुक्रिया फ्रैंक सिंह साहब, अभी बात कर रहे थे आप इंडस्ट्री की, फ्रैंक से मैं सुन रहा था कुछ इंडस्ट्री के लोगों का मानना है कि भारतीय कंपनियां वैल्यू एडिशन नहीं कर पा रही हैं और इसके चलते अगले साल की जो कॉर्पोरेट अर्निंग है उसकी भी संभावना काफ़ी कम हो रही है और इंडस्ट्री जो है वो 60% से ज़्यादा कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन नहीं कर पा रही है. क्या कहेंगे आप?
देखिए, इसके बहुत सारे कारण हैं. पहला तो ये है कि जैसे इन्वेस्टमेंट कहाँ से आ रहा है, किस तरह से आ रहा है, कितना हमको इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए, क्या हमारे अंदर से ही इन्वेस्टमेंट इतना हो सकता है, जनरेट हो सकता है. यदि हमको वो जनरेट करवाना है वो इन्वेस्टमेंट, तो हमको सर्टेन बेनिफिट देने होंगे जनरल पब्लिक को भी और इंडस्ट्री को भी, सो दैट वो पैसा आए और गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्ट करे या प्राइवेट सेक्टर उसमें इन्वेस्ट करे. दूसरा है किस तरह से शेयर के रूप में आने के लिए, जब हम बाहर से मान लीजिए इन्वेस्टमेंट करवाना चाहते हैं तो हमको एक इन्वायरमेंट बनवाना पड़ेगा. जब तक वो इन्वायरमेंट नहीं बनेगा तब तक हमारे यहाँ पे शेयर इन्फ्यूजन, बाहर से पैसा नहीं आएगा. और जब तक आपके पास पैसा नहीं आएगा आप अपना कैपेसिटी को बिल्डअप नहीं कर सकते हैं. तीसरा जो एक बड़ी विचित्र चीज है और जो मैं हाईलाइट करना चाहता हूं वो ये है कि हमारे ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर बड़ा इन्वर्टेड टाइप का है. इन्वर्टेड कहने का मतलब है कि जो फिनिश प्रोडक्ट है उसके ऊपर ड्यूटी कम है, पर्टिकुलरली फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्री को यदि हम लें, और जो इनपुट है उसके ऊपर ड्यूटी ज्यादा है। तो नेचुरली आई मीन एक सेंस बनता है कि हम फिनिश प्रोडक्ट को ही इंपोर्ट करें रादर देन, तो वो जो आपने कहा कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग के लिए
जी,
इस इन्वर्टेड स्ट्रक्चर को हमको चेंज करना पड़ेगा।
इसके अलावा जो पावर, स्टील, सीमेंट, फर्टिलाइजर ये इंडस्ट्री है, ये भी इसकी भी हालत आज कमजोर है काफी।
इसका देखिए कुर्बान साहब, सबसे बड़ा कारण ये है कि आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में कितना ग्रोथ करवा रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये जो सारे सेक्टर हैं वो बहुत कुछ डिपेंड करते हैं बड़े बड़े प्रोजेक्ट के ऊपर में, रोड बिल्डिंग के ऊपर, डैम बिल्डिंग, पावर सेक्टर बिल्डिंग। हमारा प्राइवेट सेक्टर जो है वो क्या, जो इंडिया का प्राइवेट सेक्टर है, बड़े प्रोजेक्ट को ले सकता है? यदि नहीं ले सकता है तो किस तरह से पीपीपी जो है गवर्नमेंट के साथ में मिलकर के वो बड़े प्रोजेक्ट को ले सकता है? उसी तरह से यदि मान लीजिए हमको बाहर से लोगों को बुलाना है तो हमको ये इंश्योर करना होगा कि आज जो रिजीम है, जो टैक्स रिजीम है, ये इससे बदतर स्थिति कल नहीं होने वाली है। तो एक जो इस सरकार ने बहुत अच्छा स्टेप लगा दिया है कि रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव अमेंडमेंट नहीं करने के बारे में जो बिल्कुल खुल करके बात की है, वो एक बहुत बड़ा पॉजिटिव स्टेप है। उससे मुझे लगता है कि आगे के आने वाले दिनों में इन्वेस्टमेंट की रफ्तार जो है वो बढ़ेगी, और अभी जो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे ने जो फिगर दिया है उसमें डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट का फिगर पिछले कुछ सालों की अपेक्षा काफी बेहतर हुआ है।
You know, an interesting point there raised by you, infrastructure, and how we need to improve the infrastructure. The infrastructure sector also needs some kind of infusion of funds as well, because we know it's a fact that the government does not have money, and that money has to come in from somewhere. We'll continue talking about that here in our studio, but before that, let's quickly get an update from Amritanshu Rai, my colleague who's standing by at IIM Bangalore. Over to you, Amritanshu.
Frank, this is the knowledge city, and we are in an institution which is at the pinnacle of knowledge. I am joined by Professor Charan Singh. He is the RBI Chair Professor of Economics here in IIM Bangalore. So your expectations on the technology infrastructure needs and the infrastructure needs?
I think this budget is going to be the first of its own kind, and this is the first full year budget, so there are lots of expectations that are built up in this budget. Now there is some space which has been created in the budget because of the oil price hike, and therefore everybody is expecting that this will be a very useful budget. Now there are a couple of things. We are in the IT hub of the country, and there are a couple of things that are associated here. I think any budget needs to look at a few things. One is expenditure management as well as tax, increasing the number of taxpayers. And this is an IT hub, lots of companies here. What are their tax paying capacities, how much is the tax that they are paying. So we have the minimum alternate tax, and there are thoughts on how to handle that. There are also some other considerations because we have double taxation treaties with many countries, and how are our IT industry getting impacted because of those double taxation treaties, those also. Then because it's an IT hub, lots of things move across the internet. Who should pay how much of tax? There is a need for clarity on those issues which need to be done.
I'll interject here. That's the basically the expectation from the IT side of India. The IT infrastructure, the technology, and fast growth in the e-commerce side. We will get back more from Professor Charan Singh probably after the budget. Back to you, Frank.
Thank you, Amritanshu, for that update there from Bangalore. Of course, we keep going back to Bangalore to get all the latest from the guests at the panel there in Bangalore during the course of the day. But right now, let's go across to my colleague Rajkamal Rao, who's standing by at the CII. Of course, Rajkamal, what does the industry expect? What is give us a sense of the mood at CII right now? Well, seem to have lost the line there, but Banmurthy, I'm going to come back to you now. Of course, infrastructure, everyone's been talking about infrastructure and how crucial it is for several of the other sectors also, because infrastructure takes along with it several of the other other sectors. But the problem really for the government is, the government has said that the PPP model has not worked, and there are no funds. There's a fund crunch, a major fund crunch as far as the government is concerned. So where is that money really going to come in from?
Yeah, I think this is the crux of the whole problem in the country at the moment. The reason why we were slowing down for the past 2-3 years is because of the infrastructure deficit. PPP, as you rightly point out, it's a failure, largely because of the framework that we have been adopting. And the economic survey really makes a point in that sense, where we need to really revise the PPP model, the PPP framework that we are adopting in this country. And at the same time, in the absence of PPP, there is no other option for the country other than asking the government to invest in the public infrastructure. That's the point this economic survey also makes, where the expenditure switching from public consumption to public investments, and public investment largely should be coming in the infrastructure sector. Otherwise, the fiscal consolidation alone is not going to help you achieve the 8.5% or 8% growth. So there needs to be consistency between fiscal consolidation and the growth. So the fiscal consolidation, that is reduce the public consumption, increase the infrastructure investments, then you should expect a higher growth.
Priyaranjan Dash, are we going to see a lot more disinvestments maybe in the near future to try and meet that fund crunch?
Absolutely, because, if as you step up public investment, which is most essential at this point, because private investment is not going to come in a hurry. As you step up public investment, you require resources for that. And within the framework of fiscal consolidation you are trying to achieve, if you have to have money to invest, make capital investment, then you need to actually cash in on public sector shares, and the market conditions are good, and perhaps next year 30,000 Sensex would be the floor. So given this situation, there is an opportunity here for the finance minister to set a very ambitious share sale, PSU share sale target for the next year. This year, of course, he targeted 43,000 crore, and most likely he is going to achieve it, although so far about half of that, 25,000 crore or so has been mobilized. But I believe there are several PSU share sales during the current year itself, by the end of March, are coming up. And so this year's target should be met, and this year this money has come in handy for the government to meet its the borrowing target of 4.1% of GDP, and next year it should be the finance minister can target a much higher PSU sale program. And mobilize money to be invested in capital investments, in more public investment in the country.
All right. Yes, Bhanwat, you want to make a quick point?
Just to a small point on the disinvestment. If you look at the performance of the disinvestment for the past 5-6 years, it is not really optimistic. So my feeling is that public investments should not really depend on the vagaries of the disinvestment proceeds. I think it should be a committed expenditure for the government, even if they are going to experience little more higher fiscal deficit than 3.6. I guess the tone that is presented in the economic survey, today you are going to see some kind of compromise on the fiscal deficit target of 3.6% for the next year.
All right. I'm sure Mr. Kurbhan Ali also has a few questions for the guests, but before I go to him, let's quickly get a reaction from our correspondent Rajkumar Rao, who's standing by at the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII. Rajkumar, over to you.
Frank, now all the industry heads and the members of Confederation of Indian Industry have gathered for a joint viewing of Arun Jaitley's budget, and they are optimistic, and they have been expecting that this government will give some flexibility, especially in tax regime, for the investment to come in and start kicking in the projects, because they have been pointing out in several conversations with us and other media channels that they want clear indications from the government on this, from this budget, that industry must be able to do, and as promised by Finance Minister in the Make in India workshop, entry points have to be eased. That's what the industry wants from want a particular signal from the finance minister, that they want a clear indication that this government is firm, that they will encourage industries to invest, especially the bank NPS are rising. So there are several concerns of these industries. But for the common man, what kind of expectation from this budget should be, that we'll get to know in 5 to 10 minutes as early as we will be giving the updates from on Rajya Sabha TV, Frank.
जी शुक्रिया राजकमल। प्रिय रंजन दास साहब, कल जो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे पेश किया गया, काफी रोजी पिक्चर पेश की गई है और कई अर्थशास्त्री बता रहे हैं कि साहब राहत देने वाला ये आर्थिक सर्वे है, काफी फील गुड फीलिंग आ रही है इससे। लेकिन साथ ही साथ बड़ी चुनौतियां भी हैं। रोजगार का जो मामला है, हर महीने लगभग 10 लाख लोगों को आपको रोजगार देना है और उसके लिए कोई बड़ी योजना नहीं है। तो अभी तक ये कहा जा रहा था कि साहब पिछली बार तो जब सरकार बनी थी कि इस अच्छे दिन आएंगे और लोगों को एक बेहतर ढंग से राहत मिलेगी पिछली सरकारों के मुकाबले में। क्या आपको लगता है कि इस बार ये जो बजट होगा ये राहत देने वाला होगा या मुश्किलें बढ़ाने वाला होगा?
नहीं, इसमें कोई दोहरा नहीं है कि अभी का जो आर्थिक सिचुएशन है वो बहुत अच्छा है कई मानों में। जबकि जब रोजगार की बात हम करते हैं, हम रोजगार तभी क्रिएट कर सकते हैं जब अर्थव्यवस्था में ग्रोथ हो, और हाई ग्रोथ होने पर डिफरेंट सेक्टर में, जैसे कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में, सर्विसेज में, तब रोजगार का सुविधा बढ़ सकता है। तो लेकिन इस ग्रोथ होने के लिए उसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट चाहिए, और इन्वेस्टमेंट इसलिए नहीं हो रहा है या कि हम देखते हैं कि पीछे इन्फ्लेशन को कंट्रोल करने के लिए कुछ ऐसे कदम उठाए गए हैं जिससे डिमांड जो इकोनॉमी में है, मांग, उसको कंप्रेस किया गया है। तो एक तो कंजम्पशन डिमांड में कंप्रेशन दिखाई दे रहा है, और पर्टिकुलरली गांव में और रूरल इंडिया में हम ये देख रहे हैं पिछले कई महीनों में कि वेज ग्रोथ जो है और इनकम ग्रोथ जो है वो घट रहा है। साथ में तो इससे ये हो रहा है कि देयर इज अ डिमांड कंप्रेशन इन द इकोनॉमी, सो दैट नीड्स टू बी एड्रेस्ड, नंबर 1। नंबर 2, देयर इज आल्सो अ प्रॉब्लम विथ इन्वेस्टमेंट डिमांड, क्योंकि जो बचत है, बचत का जो रेट है वो पिछले कई सालों से गिरता रहा है, और उससे कैपिटल फॉर्मेशन जो है इकोनॉमी में वो कम होता रहा है। जबकि सरकार अपने घाटे में जब कंट्रोल रखेगी तो इसका मतलब सरकार तो कभी बचत करती नहीं है, घाटा होता है तो सरकार कर्ज ही लेती रहती है। तो जितना सरकार कर्ज को कम करेगी वो एक सेविंग्स रेट में भी बढ़ोतरी करेगा ऑटोमेटिक। तो ये दो चीजों को देखनी है, एक तो कंजम्पशन डिमांड जो है उसको इकोनॉमी में बढ़ाने की जरूरत है ताकि लोग आगे आए और इन्वेस्ट करें प्रोडक्शन बढ़ाने में, और दूसरी ये है कि जो सेविंग्स है उसको एनकरेजमेंट दिया जाए और इंटरमीडिएशन को एनकरेजमेंट दिया जाए,
ठीक है,
एफिशिएंटली वो सेविंग को इन्वेस्टमेंट में बदला जा सकता है।
मैं आता हूँ आपके पास में भानुमूर्ति साहब, अरविंद सुब्रमण्यम साहब जो कि चीफ इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजर हैं सरकार के, उन्होंने कल इस आर्थिक सर्वे के बारे में कहा कि इसमें जो आंकड़े बताए गए हैं, जो डेटा दिए गए हैं, वो हकीकत से दूर है, खुद उन्होंने कबूल किया है। तो ऐसे में हम क्या उम्मीद करें कि ये जो दस्तावेज कल पेश किया गया लोकसभा में, जो तस्वीर बताने की कोशिश की गई है, इसका मतलब क्या है?
Is it on the GDP you're talking about?
जी,
GDP. See, I think my take on this is that the methodology that's been adopted by the CSO is very, very robust at the moment compared to the past methodology that we are using. And if we are believing the past numbers, I don't really see why we cannot believe the current number. So if you look at the GDP numbers, this is comparable with the international standards, and I think one should really believe this.
But the methodology has been questioned by several of the...
No, this is the methodology that is being cleared by the United Nations System of National Accounts. But previous methodology that we are using was never been cleared by anybody. There was nothing like GDP at factor cost. But we are using this number for quite almost 50 years.
but why they have changed the base here?
So the base year is a continuous process, so that it reflects the current situation rather than we compare with the previous, compared to some 10 or 15 years prices. So the base year 2011-12 is supposed to be a very normal year, and we need to compare the current year growth numbers with the normal year. So it's a very continuous process. It's not a surprise. It happens every 5 years. So I'm completely, difficult to understand why we are questioning the current number. The current number is based on the very, very robust methodology. I think one needs to accept it and one needs to stay with this.
Okay. We're completely out of time right now, but I'm just going to get one final and a quick comment from you, SP Singh, before I let you go, because you're a tax expert. So on that front, any tax stops, yes or no?
I think there should be.
Okay.
Particularly for the common man, because they are looking for either in the reduction of the tax rate or some benefit either for the education or for health like that, which will benefit both investment as well as the individual.
All right. We'll have to leave it to that. Completely out of time. We're going to wait for Finance Minister Arun Jaitley to enter the Parliament now, any moment now, and then start delivering the budget speech. Of course, thank you so much, Bhanumurthy. Thank you so much, SP Singh, as well as Priyaranjan Dash, for joining us on the program. From Qurban Ali and I, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for much more after this short break. In fact, before that, let's get you the headlines that we are tracking at the top of this hour. All set for Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's first full-fledged budget today. Growth and fiscal consolidation expected to be his key focus. Ahead of the budget, economic survey emphasizes on scope for big bang reforms. Forecast growth rate of over 8% for the next financial year. Markets upbeat ahead of the budget. Sensex gains over 215 points and Nifty jumps by 60 points in early trade. Jaitley's resolve to cut down fiscal deficit to 4.1% this year will be tested today. Steep fall in crude oil prices likely to offer some relief for the Finance Minister. And all eyes on Jaitley's roadmap to implement the goods and services tax regime. Finance Minister expected to tweak tax rates to implement GST from next year.